very good evening and a warm welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us. We're coming to you from the Kampala Serena Conference Center in TV Uganda studios, and it's a pleasure to have your company on the show tonight. Our conversation, we will be speaking to people who grew up in church in the Anglican circles on what life is like being a minister's child. Usually we have the pastors speaking about this and that and all of that. So it's nice to have the children here for a change. It's good to have all of you. I'll very quickly introduce you. I'll start with Herbert, who is next to me. Herbert Sabiti is the CEO Ridgeline. He is also the son of retired Reverend Christopher Rushundahire of the Diocese of Chigezi. It's good to have you.
Thank you.
All right. Right next to Herbert in hot pink is Dr. Ruth Obaikol, who is the Deputy Director, Academy for Health Innovations, IDI, the daughter of retired Bishop Charles Obaikol of Soroti Diocese. It's good to have you here, Ruth.
Thank you, Josephine. Hi, everyone.
All right. And finally, at the end, we have Pretty Patience Chichoncho, who is an information scientist master student at Makerere University and the daughter of Reverend John Ntejerize of the Diocese of Chigezi. It's good to see you, Pretty.
Thank you. Good to see you too.
I have questions about the name Pretty. Should we start there or should we start with something else?
Anything.
All right. I've been wondering and asking myself, in this lockdown, you guys are possibly used to church every Sunday, fellowship every day, you know, Bible study every Tuesday or Thursday or whatever, lunch hour every day, you know, you're used to being in the church setting. What has it been like with the lockdown?
Incidentally, for me, in the later years of my father's life, he kind of brought church back home. So I've been very confident having some of my church at home with my children. So for me, lockdown was a continuation of church at home. So I don't think I've felt much of a difference. It's just been a continuation of my life, and church continues everywhere that I am. So it's been okay for me.
All right.
It's just been a good experience.
It has been a crazy moment and period because I wouldn't think that the church can be closed. And the good thing is that as a priest in the home, I was taught to be a priest in the home. So I had to bring the church in the home. So I've been having church service at home and Bible studies at home with my children.
So you're leading your family through
Yes.
that. What does Sunday morning look like? Do you wake up and actually dress up, or do you do church in pajamas?
Yes, I dress up like I'm going to church, and the children do. And
You're all dressed up like you're going to church, by the way.
Yes, Sunday morning, wake up and dress up and we go to our living room and have a service.
With perfume and everything, like
no perfume.
Pretty, what's this period been like for you?
I really miss church so much because my life has been about going to church, lead worship, practice, Bible study, sale. So everything has been online, and I have missed the physical interaction. And also singing to a congregation you don't see has been quite of a challenge. You have to imagine they're lifting up hands and closing their eyes. But nevertheless, it's been a good experience because God still remains even when church doors are closed.
Okay. You're clearly the youngest of all of us in the room, so I'm assuming that you're the one who is you're still with your parents, right?
Yes, though my parents live in Kabale and I live here.
Okay. So what has been your experience as a child of a minister, a pastor's child?
My experience
And you're
has
still
been,
living it, actually.
I am a pastor's child until I die. Or maybe in heaven I'll still be well. My experience has been full of episodes, good and bad. But generally I have had a good experience because I have been fathered by people that love God and love me. And I have also been taught that other people matter. And I have lived conscious of that. So I have enjoyed life being at home and having people around me and being taught that I get life from giving life to other people.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to read something that I found on the internet while I was doing some reading on our conversation today. And I want you to tell me if this rings true to any of you, if it's something that defines what you've lived. I was reading a report titled "Preachers' Kids Are the Worst." It was conducted among Dutch children, and it doesn't seem like they would relate to Ugandan children, but here is an excerpt. You'll tell me. The minister was a man of God, and his family had to be a role model of piety and virtue. The minister's wife had a special task in the congregation, and their children acted as a role model for other children. A minister, unable to manage his own family, was to be pitied and was not worth of bearing the name of pastor. In this context, sometimes 1 Timothy 3:5 was cited. If anyone does not know how to manage his own family, how can he take care of God's church? So fear of being disgraced publicly by the supposed bad behavior of the children would lead to rigorous norms in the parsonage, and it goes on and on. Does this ring true to what your lives have been like?
Oh yeah, yes, and the public expects much from a pastor's child and also from the pastor. And I remember Mzee once when I was in a senior 4 vacation, he told me that, now please, I beg you, if you are to have a girl, bring her home. Don't stand on the roadside. Bring her home. And I used to bring girls at home, and they give us a gap, and we talk. So now I know that they were protecting their image, because the public expects much from a pastor.
And your image as well, because when we see you, I mean, they say pastors' children are the worst. We see you and we have we place expectations on you. Society really does. So,
but not only pastors' children, other children. We pass through adolescent stage.
Yeah, but we're not watching them. Their parents are not holier than we're watching you closely.
The problem, the public thinks that we are from heavens or what, but we are human beings like them.
Ruth, what was it like for you? Does this ring a bell?
Yeah, I actually like the story. Maybe I wasn't very conscious about it through my life, because I think that I probably enjoyed being around church and being around priests and Christians. But I think that I look back and I think that my father was a strict disciplinarian, partly because of what that story is telling. I mean, your family should be seen to behave in a certain manner. And I think that, yes, he gave us an opportunity to be who we are and who we want to be. But on the other part, I really saw a tough side of him. Sometimes he would just make a statement and you just knew which line you must be in. So definitely I see it play out in our lives, and I think that there was pressure to be something and somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty?
Oh, I really believe that being a role model takes a lot of hard work. You do not wake up and you're a role model. To be able to impact someone positively, you have to work on it and on a daily basis. So I would see my parents every day working hard to make sure we do not bring shame to them. And they would even tell us openly, when you do this, what will people think about us? They expect this and that. For example, till today, I cannot go to the village church and wear lipstick.
Huh?
I cannot wear this dress and go to my village church. So when I go to the village, I wear dresses either flowing or up to somewhere, not because I don't wear these short ones, but because I'm aware of the image to keep.
Are you breaking rules right now?
Not really. I'm not breaking rules, but I was taught to dress for the occasion. If you're going to do ministry in St. Francis, where I serve, this is how you dress. If you're to do ministry in the other village, this is how you dress. So, but that difference, I was able to tell it later in life. So me, when I was growing up, it was about compulsory discipline. Prayer is a must, whether you feel like it or not. It is now that I understand why I should pray, but then I would be like, again. Even when I felt that, it has impacted on me positively. So public image is a serious issue for us as pastors' kids, Because like you read, my father has to be in charge of my home to be believed in the church he's serving. Actually, the bold ones would even ask, you are teaching us to do this, but your son was at the bar drinking. So it kind of takes your confidence down. So for you to keep with your confidence and head up high, take control of your family, be in charge, there are things that you... How does a pastor's kid go to a dance with the other villagers? How?
What's wrong with dancing? Okay, so what did any of you ever break any of these rules, and what were the consequences? I don't know why I'm looking at Hamad, but
He looks like the rule
He looks
breaker.
a law breaker.
Oh yes, it was actually very strict rules. Like before, if it reaches 7 p.m. before you reach home, you remain where you are.
what rules did you break? You're here dressed up in a suit looking, you know, but I'm
Very
sure there are
many.
things. Tell
Very
me.
many rules,
did
and
you do?
also going to the village dances. I went there, and when I came back, I knew that I am finished. And you know what I did? I passed through the church. I jumped and went into the church, and I first prayed that God, this time I forgive me and let them not kill me.
What else did you do?
What else did I
I'm
do?
sure that's not the worst you did.
Oh, in my senior 4, during mock, we went out to drink, and when we came back, we turned the school upside down. That is St. Mary's College of Shoros, and they chased us. When they chased us, I reached home, and I forged the report. And my mind
Why are
was...
you whispering? They can still...
my mind was that now they will give me money, I go back, maybe I do coaching and I finish my senior 4. So when I forged the report, I think Muzei was very clever. He knew that this report is forged. So he went to school and he said, this one was suspended. He came back and said, you are going to prison now. So I said, no, let's now talk money to money. And we talked and we agreed. Life continued. But the problem was that even when I was going to do final exams, I would go with the police, because I was so notorious that they thought I would burn the school.
Police. Who
I had an escort.
who gave you an escort?
It was compulsory. The school,
Oh,
it was a
I thought your
condition.
father had.
No, it was a condition. It was a condition that before you enter the gate, you have to come with the police. And after finishing an exam, you go back. And if the exam is in the morning, you do the paper, then you go outside the gate, and you come back in the afternoon to exam.
Ruth, did you ever break any rules? Were there consequences?
I think I had to say this, but I think I was the
You
good
were-
girl
Oh.
who everybody thinks wasn't disciplined enough, because I was good. I think I got crazier later on in life, but I grew up okay, like somehow following all the rules. Weird, but yeah, I was the good girl.
Did it ever impact on how you have children, right? Does
No.
did your upbringing impact on how you're raising your children? Are you very cautious about discipline? Are you still looking at them and saying, I was a pastor's daughter, I'm a pastor's daughter, you're pastor's grandchildren, you cannot embarrass us? Do you ever think?
Maybe not that you're pastor's grandchildren, but I think that I assimilated lots of things while growing up. So I still have that thing of make no mistake. So of the two of us, I am the disciplinarian at home. So I really spunk. Hopefully the police don't come for me. But I've been the one who spunks and, tries to keep people in line. And then, of course, because of, I really, one of the things I appreciated and about my parents is every morning I always had them pray for us, but that also every evening everything stopped at some moment and it was a time to pray. So I've seen things happening in life that are more of a miracle than things that I could have achieved by myself. So I am kind of a prayerful person, so that has stayed in my family as well. At some point in the evening, everything stops for us to make the prayer to
How old are your children?
God. 8 and 5.
Are they following the rules?
No.
All right, let's take a short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. We're coming to you from the Kampala Serena Conference Center at the NTV Uganda studios, and we're speaking to pastors' kids today, PKs.
Yes.
Yes,
There
sure.
is shows on TV about PKs. Do you guys watch them? Have you ever watched them? Not the ones in Uganda, but you know, outside of Uganda.
No,
And
I've never.
they do the craziest things. Pretty, you've not watched them?
I bumped on it once, but I wasn't inspired.
Okay. Did any of you growing up want to follow in your parents' footsteps and either be a pastor or be a pastor's spouse or, you know, no?
Yes.
Pretty, you did?
Yes. I have never thought about being an ordained pastor. Ordained meaning you go to a theological college and train. But I have always wanted to love the God that my father loves, because I have had a lot of good about it. Also, my mother is a worship leader, a worshipper in song. So she inspired me a lot to love singing. And I grew up singing without meaning until I started singing with meaning. So whenever I'm singing, I want to make her proud. I actually imagine if my mother came without me noticing, or my dad, and watched me sing, would they be happy?
I thought you were singing for Jesus.
Yes, I'm singing for Jesus, but it started with being impacted on by my parents.
Okay.
Now I sing with meaning because I sing to God and to Jesus, but like where we started, public image. I want them to be happy, to be proud of me. And also, Josephine, when you see me singing, you're inspired by what is happening. So somehow you can't pull out the public image in everything.
Okay. But when churches open, I'm going to visit St. Francis.
Please
This is
come,
one
you're
of the
welcome. We'll give you the front seat.
No, I don't want the front seat. How about I keep coming back to you on the craziest things because I know a bit about your story. How many schools did you go to in primary?
In primary, 9 schools.
9 schools. How many years are there in primary? I thought there's
Yes. There are 7 years.
What
But-
happened? Were you naughty from childhood?
No, it's because we used to shift from one church to another. Transfers.
Okay.
And you asked the question that would you want to be following your father's? Now, me, it's hard because of those transfers. You'd be transferred from one village to another village and to another village. So you meet new friends. Yes, when we were young, it was crazy. We liked it, but it was somehow tough. Because sometimes you go back to harvest what you planted and you carry it like 10 kilometers or 20 kilometers on your head. Sometimes actually you find all your garden has been stolen. You have gone to harvest and you find there's nothing there. So
for that reason, you don't want to be...
No, when God calls me, I will answer.
Okay.
Yes.
Pretty, you went through the same, I think, in the transfers.
Actually, he just reminded me of a funny scenario. I was at Chigez High School in Senior 5, and I always waited for the last day of school to go home. This time round, my dad didn't come for me or any person. I was supposed to go by myself, and I went to the old place, the former place. I reached and found a completely new home, and I said, no, your parents shifted there. And it looked so funny because my dad didn't have a phone. I didn't get to know it. They had shifted like that week. So that experience is really not nice.
Wait, what did you do? How did you then find
I
your way
cried.
home?
I'm a bit emotional, so I cried.
Don't cry even now.
No, not now. So I cried, and somehow the reverend at that place pitied me because he was my father's friend, gave me money, and I went to the place they had shifted to.
But how did you know where they'd gone?
Like getting a taxi and say I'm going to this place, because churches, usually Anglican churches, are obvious.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got there. Transfers have advantages, but they're really less compared to the disadvantages.
What's the advantage?
The advantage is that you meet new people, you improve, you expand your social network.
Yeah, true.
You get to know places, touring. I have really toured places. The other advantage is my father right now is very favored by most people because of going to different places. On my Queenjera, I don't know how many people I need to invite, because he says this village here, I have to invite my people, I have my people. So the people that we are, I think it was a good thing.
What's the worst thing about these transfers for you?
The worst thing, our things getting spoiled. We were not in need, but we didn't have everything we wanted. So you find you have your few things, few cups, plates. By the time you get to the next destination, there is nothing working. So sometimes you eat from broken plates until God, of course, provides. So we always lost a lot of stuff. Then you go to a place, you find sometimes the house is in a very bad state, and you have to struggle to again adapt to the new environment. Yes.
Ruth, did you were you also in that category?
Yeah,
of the
I think
movie?
I'm very dramatic. So my father was Principal Bishop Taka Mukono, and then he became provincial secretary. So he was working at the province. But after that, we were, I don't want to say thrown, but transferred to a village. And I always like telling my siblings that there's a period, and I was telling Herbert, there's a period in life where I don't remember where I actually slept. I remember the life around the home, but I don't remember what was in that house. Because like Pretty was explaining, you can be taken from a very beautiful house to nothing. So you have the experience of having almost everything, and then have an experience of living where there's
almost nothing.
Nothing. And then you think like, okay, this is bad. And then they take you to even worse. There are no windows. The floor is all tattered. So, you know, I think it's a very good experience, having to experience the full range of life. But again, sometimes it can create negative, you know, perceptions of, I know Herbert says he wants to become a priest, but when you think about the detail of the life of the priest, sometimes you feel like, is it something that I can really do? So, yeah, I did experience this, and it's not nice. But it gives you this experience
from a better place.
Yeah, it gives you the experience of resilience.
I've remembered we are transferred to a certain church, and we reached there. There was so much freeze, you know, freeze. And we got jiggers. It was too much on us. Every morning they would you'll be just getting jiggers out of your,
oh my God,
your toys. So every morning.
Pretty, you thought you had it bad, but listening to this, and
my mother would beat you jiggers.
Did any of you get bullied in school for being a preacher's child? Pretty, you were bullied?
Even now. I was, and even now.
What does that look like?
It's unfair.
What do they say to you?
Can we go to... they suggest like to take you out like in a bar. And they say, but a pastor's kid, you can't even go. You will embarrass us. You know, this attitude of, we don't want you to come, you will... So kind of, they fix you to a life, even when you'd want to experience some fun, but they make it feel like, one, you're not informed about the trends. Actually, even you wear a nice shoe and they're like, how did a pastor's kid discover that kind of cool shoe? So they kind of make it feel like for us we should be, I don't know which word I can use. In the other ancient, I don't know. A guy, or probably a guy walks to you and is like, but marrying a pastor's kid is such hard work. I have to be forced to be a pastor in a way. So sometimes you lose out.
I know.
Because people already define what you want before you say it. I would want something different, but I have no chance to explain. People have already, she's this, she's this, she's this. If they meet you, sometimes I put on my status pictures in short, sassy dresses, and a comment is like, "Oh, pastor's kid, you're getting out of your shell." And I'm like, guys,
I'm in my shell.
this is me. I'm in my shell. I'm not a pastor.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about?
No, I don't think it is bullying, but at school they used to call me Reverend. Maybe they were prophesying.
They were prophesying.
I might become a Reverend. So, yeah, they used to call me Reverend Han. Now Reverend has done this, Reverend has done this. So sometimes it was good to keep you focused.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Ruth, did you ever get bullied?
No, I think for me it's kind of worked on the positive. Sometimes at hospital people can get really naughty. So I remember in one of the ward rounds that we had, there was this particular doctor who was a bit naughty, and another one said, that is the bishop's daughter, so be careful. So I think it worked out for me protective, but also sometimes you're walking through the lift and people see your name tag, and then they say, is that your bicola, and then, sometimes you feel like you really have to be straight. So I kind of removed my name tag. So at least I really have to be free and be who I am. Yeah.
Yeah, people look at you and they place the same burden that they place on your parents,
Yes.
on you. What does it involve working at the province of Church of Uganda as a person?
I really wanted to work for the church, but not necessarily as a priest. So I'm always grateful for that phase in life. Of course, many people thought, why would a surgeon be working at church? And I spent 6 years working. I always told people I was a religious leader. For that time, I wasn't doing any medicine and medical work. It was a good opportunity for me because I saw the potential of the church to touch lives and really be at the grassroots. But of course, there was the challenge of balancing how the marketplace does its job as a lay person and how priests view work. So there was a really delicate balance there, and sometimes I was viewed as having too much energy for the workplace. So it was interesting.
So that comes from the diligence that is put in you as you grow up. The energy, the too much energy.
Maybe. I think that I work hard and sometimes go beyond bounds and have too much expectations in terms of you have to be committed to this. If you said you're going to do this, you must deliver it and complete it. So I always like ticking off things that we've done this and finished, done this and finished. And sometimes it's difficult, and especially in church where the spiritual realm has to play out as well. What is God saying about this? And yet for you think that goals must be achieved. So sometimes there was for a lay person, sometimes it can be very difficult balancing the spiritual life and the marketplace work. Yeah, that's what I could say.
Has any of you worked in church? Have I, Pretty?
I have not worked in church, but I have served in church all my life. So it's not quite, the difference is that she is paid to work there. Me, it's a voluntary service, but we experience the same challenges. While we were growing up, we were taught never speak back to an older person. Even when you're hurt, just swallow. But as I grew up as a Christian, I realized it's for my sanity, it's for my health to be able to speak out things that I'm not comfortable with. So you asked the other two, the crazy things they've done. Me, it has always been crazy because I speak out. Most of the time, it has worked against me. But it gives me a lot of peace to know that I have gone to bed when everything is sorted. But that's not what a pastor's kid should be. Maybe my dad, after this show, he may need to sit me down again as usual.
Let's take another short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us tonight. We're speaking about what it's been like for children of ministers, not ministers in that sense, but pastors' children to grow up under, you know, the kind of rules and regulations that are set for them. Do you guys have an association or a group where pastors' children from different churches come together and meet? And I know that you're all from the Anglican Church. Do you have that kind of association, and who is in that association?
Oh yes, we have a Pastors Children Association of Uganda, and I'm the president of Pastors Children Association of Uganda, Anglican. We come together to discuss, because of course we have same background, but also we want to transform the church and the community around us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is any of these two part of the group, or are you here in the capacity of president alone?
Yeah, all of them are members of Pastors Children Association of Uganda, and Dr. Ruth is my vice chairperson.
Okay. What does a meeting look like?
We are very focused, especially on, the church does not really support our parents later on when they retire. So it's more like serve, and then later on kind of find your way through life at the end. So one of the things that we want to do is to be part of that story. And so we're thinking, how can we be part of helping our parents live a sustainable life during service, at now when they're serving, and also when they retire. So those are some of the things, but also there are some pastors' children who may not make it in life because of what we've been talking about.
The pressure.
You live in many villages through your time, so you don't really make it in life as others would. So we don't have the luxury of you're in a stable place, and you can go to a day, how do you call it? You can't be a day scholar and have a stable life. So we also thinking, how do we relate with them? How do we reach out to them? And how do we all have a better life, a sustainable life, and a life that really makes sense? So those are some of the things we are thinking about.
When you speak about your parents not being supported as much after they serve, so when they're retired, when they're serving, they're living in houses that are provided by the church.
Yes.
So after retirement, what happens?
Who cares?
They go back to their original village.
So their original village, and who built the house in the original village?
So actually, we are planning to train them on how to be prepared for retirement. Sometimes when they are 2 years left, that's when they start looking here, fundraising here and there to start building, because they are used to staying in these church houses. So they should be ready to
but your school fees as children are usually also paid by the church?
No.
The church ensures you go to school? No?
No. But we, like me, where school fees came was through my hand.
From the garden?
From the garden, the church provided.
Our parents actually earn from offertory, if I could call it earning. And so you can go to a church where people give 20,000 in a church service.
Even 10,000.
Okay, and so
No,
in a month
service.
that is about, so priests really have to work so hard to make sure that their children actually go to school. And when they retire, there's no really retirement package or a means of looking after you after that for most of the dioceses. So it's a tough life for them.
I think there's a little package. I usually joke with my friends that it is a negligible package, because I remember that day my dad was retiring, they gave them 500,000. That's not enough for my house rent even. 500,000, you have a family, children, and you're supposed to sort out yourself. I don't know in sorority diocese, I don't know how they do it.
I'm actually thinking you're very lucky that.
Yeah, I think maybe it depends on the bishop in charge. I really don't know the criteria.
Right, so I want to know, first of all, then how did you guys go through school? But also, were your parents then allowed to get jobs for, you know, Monday to Friday?
No.
Nothing?
A definition of a pastor, you are supposed to be at church and
So
and
people
serve.
can come and see you all day, every
Yes.
the week?
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, and I
There are
think
two
that
types of pastors. There are those pastors that are in full-time church business. Then there are those we call tent makers. You can be maybe governor of Bank of Uganda and still be a clergy.
Yeah.
So you only support when needed, Sunday or when there's a special function. But I think for the three of us, it's been full-time
Ministry.
ministry. How did we manage to go to school? I would really want to say that God has special favor over pastors. Not to say that others are not favored, but I have seen it work out, play out completely in my life. For example, through high school, A-level, my first degree, even now, I have not paid any fees. Not because I'm the most intelligent person, but I think God hears those prayers every morning from my parents. Lord, please. And I have not paid fees. So now that helps to them to concentrate on the other children. So it's been really God. You cannot even point to anything because one, if you join business, it becomes an issue. There are lots of questions. If you own a big business empire, people will start saying, okay, people will start saying you have abandoned church, you're now business minded. If you try to get another job, it is also an issue. So like Ruth said, you only pray that God provides to people and they're able to provide in church.
We know that there's a lot happening in church now, really it cuts across to all the different sects. We see that there are a lot of people who are in it for money. We see there are a lot of people who are in it for the power that they then have over a congregation. And do you ever sit back, I guess, and question your faith? Have you ever had a moment where you questioned? The two of you are looking at me in a very, pretty smiling, looking at the floor. But Ruth, your face said something. Did you ever question?
yes, I question, maybe because I always question everything. So I could say that I even questioned 1 week ago. I do question my faith and always try to make sure I know why I'm believing. And I ask myself, what about if the Muslims are right? What about if the Catholics are right? What about if the Pentecostals are right? I do question, but like I said, I've seen miracles happen through my life, and I know it's not just because of what I'm doing. I can't say that I'm in charge of everything that has happened in my life. So I question, but I believe.
I think I question God sometimes. God, I know you love me. Why am I going through this? Why? Last week I was told my father is sick, and I'm like, God, it shouldn't be my father. He has lived his life for you all his life. But then God speaks to you and reminds you he's 73. It's been favor. Some people don't even have parents. So somehow, even when I question, there's a voice that comes in to settle me down. So I get crazy and ask, but God still shows me. Everyone questions. We've gone through a lot that you could probably think, as sharing with Ruth, if we hadn't found our place in God as individuals, would have probably let it go. But even growing up in pastors' homes, we later realized that you have to discover self. You have to discover yourself as Ruth, as Pretty, as Herbert. So who you are and your relationship with God is what carries you on. At one point, your parents don't matter at all.
Yes.
Your parents won't make a choice for you for a job, for a spouse, how many children you give birth to. So when you reach a place of self-discovery, you start now making bold steps as you.
As an individual.
As an individual.
How about, did you have a question?
Yes.
Did you ever leave church?
Actually, my problem is that the church should be above the state, but I see the church running to the state. I'm normally disturbed by that. Above the state, because if you go to the Bible, the priests used to anoint the kings. Now it's now the king is being anointed. The reverse is true. The king anoints the priests. it really disturbs me a lot.
Did you
And
ever
I
leave
just-
church?
Did I?
Ever leave church?
No, I've been in church
Throughout?
Yeah.
But you were a bad
But
boy.
Josephine, by the way, there's leaving church when you're still there physically.
Like emotionally,
You left
No.
completely, but physically, because your dad will be told you no longer go to church. So we should focus on being there physical and also emotionally and spiritually.
What do you think of, all of the stories that are out there about church leaders now being in it, some of them being in it for the money and for the power?
I learned from my parents that it was not about money. If it was about money, they would have resigned long time ago. It was about their faith, about the service. But these pastors who come in church looking for money, really, they are doing themselves a service, because serving God while you are looking for money, it's very dangerous. Our parents used to work hard, and they taught us to work hard also, using the guidance that we are provided. And fortunately enough, we used to get a good harvest, and we would sell the harvest to get money for our clothes and school fees.
Right.
Yeah, of course, it distracts you from the real calling. If your focus is money, then you won't settle in a place that has no money. You'll find every reason to get away from that place.
Right.
I think that it's also very tempting because of the way the Christians also make the priests believe that they're so powerful and so strong and that they have all the answers to their problems. I think that relationship between, I think that there are many pastors who probably start the whole journey with in the right place.
Good intentions.
Good intentions. But at the end of the day, there's a way in which Christians also put you in that place. You appear in a place, it's as if, my God, God has arrived himself. And then you start saying that, well, I could manipulate these people because they know I have the power.
And exploit.
You know?
And
Yeah, exactly. You can
exploit
exploit them. So I think that pastors are put in a place that, and when you also are in a difficult spot and you need the money, it's very easy for you to manipulate. Come, let me pray for you. And it's very easy for you to call and say, I need this money.
All right, as we close, who mentored you, Herbert, and what would you want to say in closing?
Oh yeah, my mom, she was a very good mentor, and actually I've written a book about her. It's called Young and Flourishing. It's coming out before the end of this year. She was a very good mentor. I remember very well in my P7 vacation, she took me to Garamo Hospital to see her nephew. She was sick. She had AIDS. Now coming back, she told me, this is how AIDS kills. This is how AIDS kills. So I remember when I was at St. Mary's, I was in a very compromising position, and I heard her voice that this is how AIDS kills. So she was a very good mentor, also hardworking. She would tell you to be resilient, as she would tell you, you see, you don't have money, but you don't have to pick what is not yours. You don't have to be like someone in a bad way. You have to work your life throughout.
Right.
So to be hardworking, and I have developed businesses because of the mentorship she gave me.
In one sentence, what would you like to say?
I would like to say that being a pastor's child is a privilege, God-given, and I'm happy that I was born a pastor's child. And also, being a pastor's child doesn't mean that you are too holy than others. I was the bad boy, but being a bad boy doesn't mean that you should remain there. I'm now born again, and I serve God in church.
You're back to the fold.
Yeah.
Ruth, in closing, what would you like to say?
I would like to thank everybody who gave to church because you've made us who we are. I think we are a product of lots of giving from friends, from churches. Sometimes it can appear funny, but you've made us who we are, and wherever we are trying to impact and give back.
All right. And Pretty, finally?
I wouldn't have asked for more. I'm really blessed to be a pastor's child, and blessed to have the privilege to be able to touch other people's lives who are not pastors' children. And I would like to thank my parents, my father, my mother who taught me how to sing, my big brother taught me how to sing, and the church leaders that I have served with even now at St. Francis Chapel. It's amazing to know that you matter in the house of God.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for taking the time to share your stories with us. It's interesting to learn all the things that we have about what it's like to be an Anglican pastor's child.
Yeah.
That brings us to the end of our show for tonight. Thank you for watching. Coming up is NTV Weekend Edition.